Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Eleanor Hawkins, and welcome to Telestory Time. The Library, a Magic Castle. Come to the Magic Castle when you are growing tall. Rows upon rows of windows line every single wall. They reach up high as the sky, and you want to open them all. For every time you open one, a new adventure has begun. The Library, a Magic Castle. And boys and girls, this morning we're starting to have our Christmas stories, and we'll have them every Saturday morning until Christmas. And the one I've chosen for this morning is December is for Christmas. Jeremy was like other rabbits except for one thing. He could read. It happened one cold December day when he was walking through the forest and saw a piece of paper on the ground. It was a page from a first grade reader. Jeremy went over and looked at it, and you know he found he could read. The young rabbit quickly ran home to his burrow. "Come here, everybody," he called. "Mama, Papa, Uncle Alva, Uncle Mike, Uncle Stanley, Grandma, Grandpa, Aunt Agnes, Aunt Beatrice, Aunt Matilda, do come here." When all the family had come, Jeremy spread open the paper. "Listen," he said, "I can read." And he read from the page of the first grade reader. "Look, Dick," Jane said, "look up. Do you see it? I see it." When he had finished, Uncle Alva shrugged. "Who's Dick? Who's Jane? See what?" he asked. "And what for?" Uncle Mike added. "What do they want to look up for?" "If that's reading," Uncle Stanley said, "I don't see the good of it." "Nor I," Aunt Beatrice agreed. "It doesn't change a thing, not a thing." And all the rabbits went back to doing just what they had been doing before Jeremy could read. Still, Jeremy couldn't quite believe that reading wasn't good. Maybe if one found the right piece of paper, it would change things. So Jeremy went to the edge of town, and he did find a piece of paper. He picked it up and rushed back home. "Come here, everybody," he called. "Mama, Papa, Uncle Alva, Uncle Mike, Uncle Stanley, Grandma, Grandpa, Aunt Agnes, Aunt Beatrice, Aunt Matilda, do come here." When all the rabbits had come, Jeremy began to read. "One bag of red berries. One tree. One package of icicles. One box of snow. One silver star." That was all there was on the paper. Uncle Alva wiggled his ears back and forth. "One box of snow?" he snorted. "Who wants to put snow in a box?" "A package of nonsense, if you ask me," Uncle Mike agreed. Aunt Beatrice just shook her head. "It still doesn't change a thing, not a thing." The next day, Jeremy went to town again. This time he looked outside the school. He found a piece of paper with writing on it, and he read it. He read it all the way through, and then he rushed back home. "Oh, come here, everybody," he called. "Come here, come here." Now, when the rabbits had come, Jeremy began to read. He read slowly, watching his family out of the corner of his eye. "Sarah Jones, grade 2. What is Christmas?" "Oh, Christmas is a holiday that comes in December. People give presents and sing songs in the snow. They decorate a Christmas tree. First, they find the nicest fir tree they can find. Then they put trimmings on it, and icicles, and snow, and other things that are beautiful. But last of all, they put a star at the top of the tree. And then they kiss each other and say, 'Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas.'" When Jeremy had finished, all the rabbits sighed happily. Uncle Alva grinned. "That changes things some, doesn't it?" "Yep," Uncle Mike agreed. That's more like it. So then and there all the rabbits went out into the forest. They called together the other animals, and just as Sarah Jones had said they should, they looked through the forest for the nicest fir tree they could find. Now it was on top of a hill, the tree they wanted, standing alone, pointing into the sky. "Finest tree I ever saw," Uncle Alva said. And then he turned to the other animals. "Well, what are you standing there for? A Christmas tree has to be decorated, doesn't it?" So the animals ran and brought back red berries and scattered them all over the tree. They hung icicles down from the branches. They gathered great paws full of snow and sprinkled it until the whole tree glistened. Uncle Alva chuckled. "Remember about the red berries and the boxes of snow that Jeremy read? I think that was all about Christmas too." At last all the animals stood back and looked at the tree. "Oh, it's pretty all right," said Uncle Mike admiringly, "but it seems as if there's something missing. Read what Sarah Jones says again, Jeremy." And so Jeremy did. When he had finished, all the animals were quiet. Uncle Alva sighed. "There's no star," he said finally. And where would the animals find a star? Where would anyone find a star? It was evening now and getting quite dark. So the animals just sat and looked at their beautiful tree and felt sad. Without a star, it wasn't truly a Christmas tree, not the way Sarah Jones had said. But there was one thing the animals didn't know. Wonderful things can happen at Christmas time. And behind the tree, on the other side of the hill, something was beginning to happen now. The evening star was rising in the sky. "Oh, I just can't take my eyes off that bare spot on the tree," Uncle Alva said. The evening star climbed farther and farther up the sky in back of the tree, higher and higher. Then all at once it burst into sight at the tip top of the tree, and it clung there, right on top of the bare spot. Oh, the animals gazed at the star in wonderment. "Now I understand that first piece Jeremy read," Uncle Alva whispered softly. "Remember? Look up. Do you see it? I see it." Then all the animals kissed each other, just as Sarah Jones had told about it. Oh, they kissed Jeremy twice, because after all, it was his reading that had changed things. "Merry Christmas," they said. "Merry Christmas." And that, boys and girls, is the story. December is for Christmas. And now stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a moment to read from our big Do You Know book. Stay tuned. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read from our big Do You Know book. Do you know all about Christmas long ago? Do you know before the Christmas tree, the early settlers had their choice of evergreens for Christmas decorations? There was mistletoe, holly, pine branches, and also cranberries were used. Do you know that Queen Victoria, the famous Queen of England, in the 1800s, married a German named Prince Albert? He brought the German custom of decorating Christmas trees to England. The picture of his family around the Christmas tree appeared in newspapers in the United States and in Canada, and soon everyone decorated trees at Christmas. Do you know the first Christmas trees were decorated with lighted candles fruit, and homemade ornaments. Buckets of water were kept near the tree to put out a fire in case a fire was caused by lighted candles. Do you know Christmas dinner was a big part of the Christmas celebration for the early settlers, usually including turkey and always plum pudding, which was a symbol of Christmas. Church services with beautiful music celebrated the birth of Jesus, and has always been the most important part of the celebration of Christmas. Do you know Christmas has always been a family time? A long time ago, winter was a good time for our early settlers to travel. The sleigh could easily glide along in the snow, and they could go over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house to celebrate Christmas. And I know that you know that we have a wonderful, wonderful month of Christmas. It is a wonderful time of year. And boys and girls, just think, we have so much to do. First, we have to find a Christmas tree, just the right one. And then we have to decorate it. And then we have to think about the gifts we have to buy, and we go shopping. And then we send Christmas cards. And boys and girls, we bake cookies and have a good time doing it, always some for Santa. And boys and girls, we also always do wrap the gifts the best we can. And two, we look forward to always going to church and celebrating the birth of baby Jesus. Boys and girls, let me remind you, be sure and go to your public library where special programs are being planned all during the month for Christmas. And do visit any of the libraries in the Craven, Pamlico, Carter Regional Library System, where you can go and check out some very good Christmas books on your very own library card. And now stay tuned, and we'll be back with another Christmas story in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, get very comfortable and ready to listen to the story, The Littlest Christmas Tree. The littlest Christmas tree sighed. It was a soft, wistful sigh, but soft as it was, 2 pairs of long ears heard it. Peter Rabbit and his cousin Jumper, the hare, were sitting under the green, spreading branches of the littlest Christmas tree. They were so still the little tree had forgotten they were there. The little tree began to whisper to itself. "I wish," whispered the littlest Christmas tree, and then it stopped to sigh, that same wistful little sigh. "Well, what do you wish?" asked Peter Rabbit, his long ears standing straight up. "I wish I were tall," sighed the littlest tree. "I wish I were the tallest tree in all the green forest." "Well, why?" asked Jumper the hare. His long white ears with black tips also stood up. Curiosity often made his ears stand up too often. "So I could look down and see everything everywhere," replied the littlest Christmas tree, and he sighed again. "Silly," cried Peter Rabbit, laying his long ears back along his shoulders and settling himself comfortably. "Silly, what good would it do for you to see everything everywhere?" Just then Sammy Jay began to scream. "Thief, thief," screamed Sammy. Peter's ears flew straight up again. "I wonder who Sammy is calling a thief this time," cried Peter. Again he went lippity, lippity, lip to see what was happening. "And Peter thinks I'm curious because I want to see too," sighed the littlest tree. Now the little tree had time to sigh only twice before Peter Rabbit came running back faster than ever. Behind him came Reddy Fox running as fast. His big tail was carried high and he was handsome indeed. In a moment they had disappeared. Oh, I do hope Peter will get away from Reddy Fox, but how shall I ever know? Oh, how I wish I were the tallest tree in the Green Forest. Then I could see everywhere, sighed the little tree. The next day, a strange and dreadful thing happened. Men came and cut down all the young trees. Christmas was drawing near, and these were Christmas trees. Sadly, the tall trees nearby, safe because they were too big, watched the young trees fall in the soft snow. Then the trees were piled into a great truck. For a few minutes, the littlest tree stood alone. Because it was not as tall as the others, it had not been cut. For the first time, the other trees were not in its way, and the little tree could see all around, but there was nothing to see. This tree is small, but someone may buy it, said a voice, and an axe cut down the little tree. Caw, caw, too bad, called Blacky the Crow, flying high above the truck for a little way. The trees were taken on a long journey to a great city by the sea. There in the marketplace, the trees were sold one by one and carried away. They were all taken to lovely homes, and each tree brought into the home happiness and song and laughter and love. Only the littlest tree was left standing all alone in the marketplace. Then a man with a sun and wind-brown face came hurrying toward the marketplace. He saw the little lone tree. The man bought it and carried it aboard a great ship called a freighter. There the little tree was seemingly forgotten. One day a fussy little tugboat set its snub nose against the side of the great ship and pushed this way and shoved it that way and nudged it another way. At last, the bow of the great ship was pointed straight for the open water of the sea. With a blast of her whistle, the great ship was on her way to distant lands. Wound and bound with a cord, the little tree could not even sigh. Then a wonderful thing happened. All in a day, the littlest Christmas tree became the tallest of all that had grown in the Green Forest. It was unbound, and all its green branches were carefully spread out. It was hung with little bulbs of glittering colored glass, and then it was hoisted up and up until it was at the very top of the tallest foremast. Now I can see everything everywhere, whispered the littlest tree to itself. At first, everything was strange. All the tree saw was water everywhere, water as blue as the sky itself. Then, looking down, the tree saw flying fish rising out of the water around the ship's bow. They glided low above the water, and then they plunged back into the blue depths. After the flying fish disappeared, porpoises rolled and tumbled around the bow of the ship. That afternoon, the great ship lay anchored to a dock in the beautiful land of always summer. On the shore were strange trees, tall, graceful palms, small trees, and even trees bearing flowers of many colors. Oh, the little tree looked and looked. There was so much to see in this strange and beautiful land of always summer. When the curtain of darkness dropped at last, the little tree sighed another soft, wistful sigh. Then another wonderful thing happened. One after another, lights sprang out of here, there, and everywhere, shining bright in the velvety blackness. Suddenly, all the glass bulbs on the little tree burst into colored lights. There were joyous shouts from the decks below and from the dock beyond. The happy voices of children mingled with the happy voices of men and women. Oh, there was music and dancing and song and laughter far into the night, for it was Christmas Eve. When one by one the lights winked out, it seemed as if the lights on the littlest Christmas tree high on the foremast shone brighter than ever. Once more the little tree sighed ever so softly, but this time it was a sigh of joy. For in the stillness of the tropic night, as among the snow-clad hills, as in of its northern home, the spirit of peace and goodwill and love was settling over all the great world. And much later, a great light crept over the sky in the east, and the littlest Christmas tree watched the dawn of Christmas morning. And that, boys and girls, is the story of the littlest Christmas tree. And now stay tuned, and we'll be back with another Christmas story in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to read you the story of Santa Claus's surprise. Won't you drink a cup of hot chocolate before you go? Asked Mrs. Santa Claus. Oh, no, indeed, said Santa, pulling on his warm gloves. I'm late as it is. It won't hurt me to go hungry this one night. Besides, we'll have a fine breakfast in the morning. With a wave of his hand and a cheery good night, he was gone. The fading patter of tiny hooves told Mrs. Santa that the work of Christmas Eve had begun. Quickly and quietly, Santa entered house after house, leaving just the right toys for every little girl and boy. Sometimes he found notes thanking him for toys he had left the year before. He tucked the notes into his pack to take home. Mrs. Santa liked to read them too. Halfway through the night, when Santa was thinking longingly of breakfast, he slipped down the chimney of a little old house. Hanging near the chimney were two stockings. Well, said Santa, what's this? This little boy didn't empty his stocking last year. And look, neither did his sister. And he reached down to see what had been left in the toes of the stocking. For Santa was printed carefully on each of the little packages. When he opened the tiny packages, Santa found a big, fat sugar cookie in each one. Ho-ho, he chuckled. This will be a good place to leave the walking doll and the big red tractor. When someone leaves me a nice surprise, I'd like to leave one in exchange. Oh, he smacked his lips, and swallowing the last bite of cookie, he was up the chimney and away. And if a little boy and his sister were sound asleep, smiled happily when they dreamed of Santa's surprise cookies, think how they smiled wide awake when they saw what Santa had left for their surprise. And that, boys and girls, is the story, Santa Claus's surprise. And now, boys and girls, I want to remind you, be sure and include on your Christmas list. I'll get it. A book is a present you can open again and again. Be sure to include a book on your Christmas list to Santa Claus. And now, boys and girls, I see it's time for us to close our stories for this morning, but you know we'll be back next Saturday morning. Until then, this is Eleanor Hawkins saying bye-bye for Telestory Time.